I had read this book on becoming Babywise, and it has helped me so much to have a strategy for what I do with my kids. I don't agree with like everything 100% in the book, but I know that there are a lot of philosophies as moms. We compare, we have mom guilt, we just whatever, and there's a lot of feelings and hormones going on when we have a baby, and we sometimes just feel overwhelmed and stressed and anxious and all these feelings, right? And so I just want to first off say there's no right way to do things. So what I'm doing is sharing what's worked for me, and it's not perfect, but it's definitely helped give me a game plan and a strategy for like conducting my schedule and my day and the baby's well-being too, and just kind of syncing everything to make it work the best it can, knowing that newborns are going to be newborns. So in this book there's a lot of awesome concepts about a lot of things that we need as moms just to help, strategies, little tips and tools. And I just wanted to highlight a few things from the book that have stuck with me. I haven't reread it for a while, but I highlighted and kind of went through. So I just glanced over it briefly. And so a few things: when you first have a newborn, obviously they're going to sleep a lot, right? And so this strategy and kind of flow that I use is simple. Like the nuts and bolts of this book, it's feeding your baby, giving them a wake time, and then they go to sleep. And then they'll wake up hungry, and you feed them, give them a wake time, and then sleep. And newborns obviously don't stay awake very long. But what the goal is not to look at the clock and be like timing your feedings as much, but it's more about helping your baby learn the sensation of fullness. So when you feed them, you want to give them a full belly, and that means that they're not gonna, you try to help stimulate them to stay awake, to suck till you feel like they've had a good full belly. And then whether or not they stay awake, especially initially, like isn't always the goal. But there will be periods of awake time. Even with my son who's a week old, like he has great alert time after he eats for just a short time usually. And then he's tired again. And he'll go back to sleep. And then he wakes up hungry and I feed him. And because he's had that digestion time, he wakes up ready to nurse and like fill his belly again. And so what happens is he's not falling asleep to me nursing him and getting like half a feeding. And that's valuable because that allows you to go a longer stretch without like feeding, and then you're not so on demand. I feel like so many pediatricians, like all the pediatricians that I've had so far with my kids, have just said, okay, like feed them on demand. And as a mom, if I didn't know any better, I would basically be an open shop all day and like not even wear a shirt, because if the baby's like crying, I'm just automatically gonna try to fill them up with more food. And it's like topping them off and just giving them little bits. But then as moms, we don't have the freedom that we need to go about our day. And so it's definitely a two-edged thing. So it's important that we recognize the benefits for the baby too. So when you give them a good solid feeding and try to stimulate them, like changing their diaper partway through, burping them, rubbing their feet, doing things to kind of keep them awake while they eat and helping them get a full belly, it allows them to go longer. And so everyone's flow is going to be different, but the cycle stays the same. So feed, wake, sleep, all the way through the day. And what that does is it actually helps them soothe. It helps decrease, it's in the book, it talks more about it, but it's like the anxiety that babies can feel about not knowing when they're going to eat next or not knowing the plan. Like, I know it's backed in the book somewhere explains kind of what the babies go through when they're not in a cycle or a flow. But what the flow in this feed, wake, sleep cycle does is it allows them to get the sleep they need throughout the day, but it also helps them to sleep better at night because they're more calm and soothed, and they can trust, their body trusts this routine that is happening. And so they have a better night's sleep, and it's not depriving them of their sleep time during the day. A lot of times people think, man, I'm just going to keep my baby awake throughout the day and keep them stimulated and stuff so that they'll sleep at night. But really, it's the sleep during the day that helps set the tone for the sleep at night. So for me, my goal right now is just to give my son a full belly of food, and then try to keep him awake, talk to him just a little bit, and then he's gonna fall asleep, and he sleeps good. So like last night, I fed him at 10 at night, and then feedings take longer for newborns, so he was done by about 11 or so, between the burping and changing diaper and all of that. Then he slept till 3 a.m. and I fed him, and he went right back down. And then I got to sleep again until he woke up at 7 to eat. And that's not unusual for people who follow this Babywise kind of method. And I just want to share that because I think a lot of times we just feel like we have to subject ourselves to restless nights as moms and just sucking it up for however long, and then they fall into these crappy routines with sleep, and then we never get sleep, and then we don't feel refreshed, and it's just this cycle that sometimes we just have to kind of take the reins. And what they talk about in the book is it's more of a parent-directed approach. So you obviously listen to the cues of your baby, but when you follow this method, you can troubleshoot so much easier with what your baby needs, because if they're crying and they just woke up, then they're hungry. If they're crying and they've had a full belly and been awake for a little bit, then you know they're just tired, and you just have to help soothe them to bed. So like, or maybe they have a poopy diaper, like, or they're cold. But you can really troubleshoot their needs a lot better when you know that they've had a full belly and whether or not they had a good cycle of sleep. Anyway, I hope that all makes sense, because it has been such a game changer for me. And then the book talks about, as they get older, like through the night, you don't want to have, you kind of nix the wake cycle, and they get used to it. So last night when I fed him at 3 a.m., I fed him, I burped him, I changed his diaper, and then I just put him back in his pack and play. And he went to bed. And so they learn not to stay awake at the nighttime feedings, and they help establish day and night through this cycle that you continue throughout the day. And it's just been so nice. So like yesterday, I was able to go to Walmart with my son, and I knew that I could go, and that I had a certain amount of time till I needed to feed again, or nurse again, because that's been kind of the flow for what I've been able to expect. So you learn to expect things. You as a mom can calm and be assured that your baby is getting what they need a little bit better, and then the babies respond to that, and they're calmer babies. And that's what I've noticed with even my son, my first. Bailey, she's singing to my son. My first son was in the NICU for the first 30 days of his life, and we were still able to establish this routine. They kind of did a routine at the hospital too, but don't feel like you're up a creek if your baby's older. They talk about establishing this routine a little later, but the idea is just get them on a routine that they can predict and that they feel comfortable with, and it will save your sanity. So I hope that helps. reach out with any questions. I'm not an expert, but I love to share things that have helped me, and I hope they help you too if you're in this stage. And we got this, moms.